today we will be turning this Belle, I think it's supposed to be Belle squishy, into a Belle squishy. Now, this has been played with a little bit, but the paint comes off really easily. It's almost like a sticker and it just peels right off. The hair is really porous. There's a lot of breakage in the seams. She has purple hair and she's like ghost white, so I'm not really sure what's going on. The squishy itself is pretty slow rising and it's a good quality, but we need to give her a makeover. Let's get started. So those are the skin colors that I'm going to be using. She is pretty fair skin, so I mixed up, some earthy tones and some white, but I do lighten her up a little bit towards the end. With a paintbrush, I'm just going to get all her face, the ears, the neck, and her arms covered. And I actually did 3 coats on her face and 2 coats on her arms and neck, just because the face was a little bit harder to cover because of the features that it had drawn on. So I take my time here, but it was really difficult to get in some areas and some of the creases. This has a little hole here, so I cover it up with paint. And I end up painting pretty much like the whole top because, like I said, those little creases were really hard to reach. And I cannot find my small paintbrush for my life. So I end up using my dotting tool instead. Once this is complete, I'm going to move on to her dress. And like I said, this is like literally just peels out. I mean, it's pretty effortless. So the paint was pretty terrible quality as to where the squishy and the rise were pretty good. So once I get everything off, I'm gonna work out all the imperfections. You see here in the hair, she has like gaps and she has those really jagged seams. So I'm just gonna bring everything down so that when I paint it, it looks nice and flat. Once I finish this, we're ready for the paint. I did not like the brightness of the dress. Maybe I could have done it a little bit more yellow, but I wanted it to be different. So I put on this yellow, and right now I'm not too happy with it, but I do a couple coats on this. I believe it was 2, and then I smoothed it out with 1 coat, but with my paintbrush. So once I get everything covered, I have to go back to do the edges and the top, which were pretty difficult. But with my dotting tool, I just did all those small areas. Once I like how smooth it is, then I can move on to the details. So we're moving on to the accessories. I'm going to put some earrings on and I'm just dotting them with some yellow, and then later on I go over it with that gold. And we're gonna start painting that tiara because I know that when it came to painting yellow on or painting on top of the yellow, it was a nightmare. So here I am. I'm going to do this lightly, as many coats as it takes, just because it's such a difficult area and a difficult color. I'm also gonna do this to the back, and after a couple of coats, I'm going to cover it with gold. And I really want the gold to stand out. I do want it to match that ribbon that we have on the skirt. Well, that's the plan anyway. So I added this gold on top. It's pretty transparent, but it does give it like an extra shine. And I feel like Belle's dress is supposed to be this really, not shiny, but silky. And I feel like this color did that. Then with this color, I went ahead and just drew some like smiley faces from one seam to the next, and that gave it that ruffle band that she has on her dress. And I do this all around the dress. It looks a lot harder than it is, but the paint is pretty firm, so it glides on basically. And once that happens, we get to the hair. Now this is like a dark brown with like a light brown and a little tiny bit of white. Now you can't really tell that there's white in there, but the white matte is so much smoother and creamier to kind of paint on. It just glides. I think I said that already. And so it's easy for me to use it when painting big areas. We're gonna cover up all the little imperfections and try to even out her little bun. I'm not sure what this hairstyle is called, but and then just be very careful with the edges. Very careful with the edges. I'm gonna do this, and I did 2 coats on her hair. Now they're fairly thick, which is probably why I didn't do a third. But yeah, altogether it was 2. So here, if you guys see, there's a little bit of yellow because I was kind of drawing out with a permanent marker what I wanted the eyes to look like. I actually have to paint the face one more time, so that's not gonna show. But it kind of gave me an idea of how big I wanted the eyes to be. So now, because I cannot find my small paintbrush, I'm using my dotting tool to do all the little edges that are in those hard to reach places. And it works out just fine. And once I gave it all the coats of paints that it needed, I am really happy with it, and I can start with the face. So here's the hair. It's nice, and that nice chocolate brown that characterizes Belle. And I don't even remember how big the eyes were at this point with the permanent marker, so I'm just gonna eyeball it. And I do these, and I know that I'm not too crazy about it. I think because her face area is so large, I'm going to actually end up making them even bigger than this. But the point is to make 2 little balls with like 2 little winged lashes, and maybe give her some cheeks and a cute little mouth. So there you see that I did actually make them bigger, and with a little bit of white and some bright pink. I did this like pale color blush because her mouth is going to be pretty vivid, and so I wanted that to be a little bit of contrast to kind of tone down her face. And I think she looks like a little nesting doll maybe. And just her tiny little red-ish, pinkish mouth. Again with the dotting tool. And that's pretty much it. She is complete. I think it is such an improvement. Look, there's no holes or gaps. There's no pores coming out. There is a perfect skin tone and her big eyes. I did debate whether to do a catch light, but I didn't, and I love the blush and the lipstick, so she looks great. To me, she really does look like Belle.